It's actually a really good time to get into Demon Slayer. It originally appeared in magazine form back in 2016, but has had an English publication across its 23 volumes from Viz Media. There's the anime adaptation, which was 26 episodes long and was released in Japan in 2019, and this is the game based on that series, developed by CyberConnect 2 and published by Sega, and now finally releasing on the Nintendo Switch. But does it arrive like a fresh banquet of anime goodness on Switch, or more like a demon's favourite snack? Raw men. Ouch. It doesn't even make sense. Let's find out. The narrative is based on one anime season and the film. What this means is it's not particularly long. It's centered around Tanjiro Kamada, who returns home one day to find his family slaughtered by demons, only one of them remaining alive, his beloved sister Nezuko. Unfortunately though, she herself has been turned into a demon, and the game follows his quest to try and rectify that by tracking down and destroying the very demon that eliminated his family. Anime and manga storytellers are experts at shifting from positive to negative emotions. An incredibly powerful early scene shows the inner thoughts of a defeated demon, furious that these will be his last moments, but then taken aback as Tanjiro grasps his hand for his final moments. I was shocked by how poignant this was, only for the next scene to be a juxtaposed emotional shift, causing me to laugh out loud. Ow! How old are you anyway? It's that type of writing which really makes for an interesting and engaging narrative. Forget that it's not the longest ever, sometimes short and sweet is the way to go. As far as following the anime, well, it does miss a few quite important arcs, but it still does a good job of abridging the series. And for those that wish to do so, you are able to choose Japanese voices. Although I've got to say, the English dub is actually reasonably good here.
Water breathing! Fourth form! Striking time!
Gameplay is split into two distinct areas. You've got the combat and exploration, and it's all under the umbrella of the story mode. While story mode is quite short, there's an incredible amount you can unlock. Let's start by looking at the combat though. The character's reasonably easy to control using the left stick, with a simple health gauge and skill gauge shown up here. Chaining your light and heavy attacks gradually increases the special gauge, and you can store up to 3 of these specials. You can use that to activate a boost gauge, increasing your speed, recovery rate, and the efficacy of your moves. Or alternatively, you can activate your ultimate finisher, which look absolutely fantastic. Combining X and Y and the directional buttons, you can pull off some other more fancy moves, trying to avoid the ever-present threat of an enemy attack, and you're warned of these with a red aura. It allows you a few moments to try and get out of the way, and there's a handy dodge move to do just that. If, however, you'd rather play more strategically, there's a parry ability. This involves holding down the R bumper and then timing the push of the left stick. If you're successful, it will stagger the enemy and allow you a window of opportunity. Now, combat's reasonably fast and fluid, and once you get past the button mashing stage, it's far more nuanced, trying to keep that combo timer up while using the left bumper to switch to your alternative character. If done correctly, you can keep a constant flow. My only real gripe with combat is more to do with how you take damage. Take a hit at the wrong time and you're essentially going to take at least 3 or 4 before you hit the ground. It would have made more sense to enable a quick button kick out, or at least tie a percentage chance to the total stagger. Perhaps there was a way that I just didn't find. With smaller demons, when you're coming to the end of their health bar, there's a window of opportunity to perform a quick finisher, but it's the larger boss fights that really steal the show. These can be multi-stage battles and often feature the switching of characters. Near the end, there are a few quick time moves, but they're non-intrusive and actually make sense, and they allow for some of the most visually pleasing moments in the game. Once you finish combat, you're awarded a rank. These ranks relate directly to the amount of rewards you'll get. The rewards are seen in the form of memory fragments, as well as another collectible that can be used to unlock characters, custom music, and certain costumes. I personally appreciated the ranking system. The combat isn't the deepest, but striving for those S ranks kept it enjoyable, and the individual breakdown of exactly why you got your rank meant it made it easier to achieve a higher one if you wanted to come back and try again. Exploration mode is exactly that. It will generally see your player using his sense of smell to track a demon, and any conversation conversation related to that core demon will be shown with 2 orangey red exclamation marks. Alternatively, you can go around hunting for all the Kimetsu points, those tokens I previously mentioned for the unlocks, and the other tasks shown with blue exclamation marks. These enable you to improve your rank and, in turn, gain more points for each stage. Now, some tasks within an area are repeatable and others are a one-time event, but the formula remains quite consistent throughout. It's an automated traversal system, so you won't be pressing a jump button to leap over walls. You'll simply have to find a certain area to jump up. I didn't necessarily mind that, it works well enough, and as we'll see in the visuals and performance segment, it's massively helped by the way the game's presented. Outside of the 8 to 10 hour story mode, you have Versus mode, which is online or local play. This allows you to pick 2 heroes from the 24 fighter lineup. I believe some of those are actually duplicates with different costumes. The Versus mode is actually a lot of fun, and there are some incredibly skilled players online who will certainly humble you if you so choose. As far as story gameplay and controls go then, it doesn't feel overly long or drawn out like some anime game adaptations. On the contrary, perhaps it doesn't stay quite long enough. There are some real exposition heavy moments, but I felt like the balance between the combat, the exploration mode, and the story delivery was quite strong. Yeah, there are a couple of improvements I would have made to the combat, and I found myself trying to find a run button, although the default movement speed is okay, but it has some incredibly satisfying gameplay. I give gameplay 17 out of 20, and the controls also score 17 out of 20.
I don't want this person to kill anybody! Just stay out of the way!
That then takes us on to visuals, performance, and audio. And let's look first at the frame rates. It's an incredibly well presented game. It runs on the Unreal 4 engine, and it's possibly one of the best examples I've seen. You will see a few minor quirks like some disappearing objects, but they're generally small accessory items that you wouldn't be looking at anyway. The frame rate's slick and maintains a good frame pacing. It's one of those titles that through this feels smoother than its 30 FPS target. The image quality is clear and crisp with a good level of shadowing. As far as taking inspiration from an anime, it looks exactly as it should, and the moveset and combat looks fluid, but it wouldn't have harmed it to have had more combat animations and moves. While technically the environments aren't too impressive, the use of lighting and colour elevates almost every location. The same can be said for handheld mode, where performance is solid and those colours pop on an OLED screen. The Hinokami Chronicles has a brilliant soundtrack.
Don't even think about stopping!
With a number of unlockable tunes, and combat sounds straight out of the anime. The voice actors in English do a brilliant job, but switching to Japanese is a simple toggle. As far as the soundtrack goes though, it's the shift between moods that really sells it to me, and it's the second review in a row where I really cannot fault the soundtrack or the audio. Visuals and performance score 19 out of 20, and sound and music scores 20 out of 20.
Seriously! Enough already!
Now it really doesn't matter to me if you give me 57 free costumes, 2 collectible items, and more free XP than you can shake a stick at. £49.99 is too expensive for the game, particularly this far after its initial release. I appreciate that it's an enjoyable experience, but it is a short one, and it's one within the category that it places itself that's significantly shorter than its competition. That alone is enough to reduce its value score quite significantly. When it comes to replayability, it's the memory fragments in story mode which will really keep you going back to find absolutely everything, and that could add some playtime to the experience, but it's still quite short. All this being said though, there is something to be said for a coherent, concise and enjoyable package, and that's certainly what you've got here. Value scores 13 out of 20. It seems to me that far too often in games, linearity can be portrayed as a negative. For me, that's simply not the case. When it's done well, a linear, concise experience can be thoroughly enjoyable, and that's exactly the case here. Unfortunately, it's far too expensive in my opinion, but if you'd pick this up, you wouldn't be disappointed. You'll have a fun time playing through it. You may just find yourself wishing it was a bit longer. Overall, Demon Slayer gets a SwitchUp score of 86%. Let me know in the comments, is this one you've been looking forward to? Do you like the look of it? And hopefully I was able to tell you everything you need to know. Thanks to our patrons, you guys are amazing. If you're new to the channel, then do consider sticking around. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!